Welcome, everyone. I hope you guys are enjoying this beautiful weather we're having today. Really excited for today's presentation by our very own Megan Lynn from Coexist Studio. But first, I just wanted to thank our sponsors, DesignPay. Ryan, do you want to say anything?
Yeah. My name's Ryan, account manager at DesignPay. Thanks, Mari, and everyone at CRAN for having us today. Little extra excited today as Megan and Frank were one of my early customers, and Megan's a fellow Ohioan like myself. So
yeah.
I got a little extra excitement today to see this presentation. But thanks again, everyone, for having us.
Excellent. Thank you. Exclusive windows and doors. Chris, are you on the call? I'm not sure I saw you. Nope. Okay. And Barrett Flooring. Dan is here to tell us hello.
Hey, everybody. This is Dan Barrett from Barrett Flooring. It's great to see Frank and Megan and Brent Fannin, who's kind of the first person to bring me together with Frank and Megan, and just been an absolute pleasure. Our passion is working with architects and builders of fine homes. We want to be part of the conversations and hunt down all the details. So it's real fun to kind of be here and get to hang out with you guys and learn more about this house that we're going to end up helping finish out.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And our last sponsor is Indoor Weather Professionals. I'm not sure if Kristen was on either, but if you are, please tell us hi. And I did see Chris just popped on, so give us a shout out.
Trying to.
Oh, there you are.
How are y'all?
Good. Thank you so much for getting on here.
Yeah, I had trouble logging on, but that's not surprising. I'm old school now. But how's everybody?
Good.
Looking forward to today.
Perfect. Okay. Megan, I'm gonna pass it off to you so you can share your screen and we can get started. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a bunch.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. We're super excited to show you this house we've been working on. I'll share my screen. It's in the Zilker neighborhood. We have Brent Fannin on here as well, who is both the developer for the project and the contractor for it. And it's really a beautiful site, as we'll get into. And we had to work really hard to work in. We have 9 heritage trees. So that's kind of the focus of today, is how we worked around the heritage trees and then getting into the design and design concepts of the heritage trees. So let me open up here the presentation. And can everyone see our screen?
Yes, perfect.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so like I said, this is kind of a spectacular lot that was in the Zilker neighborhood. It's on Paramount Street. So that particular area has very large lots. And as Brent will go into a little later, people really didn't see how they could build in this lot initially because of the trees, but we kind of looked at that and saw that as a value added component. It really is a huge asset to the site. But how were we able to actually get around a 5,500 square foot house onto a lot with so many trees? It was definitely a process with the city, and we'll go through that right now. So just a lot of you have probably already gone through a lot of this on your own sites, dealt with trees on your own site. So some of this might be knowledge you might already have. So we'll quickly go through the standard procedures and then some of the special things that we had to do for this particular lot. So the very first step, we had to meet with our certified arborist to get a tree analysis for all the trees to make sure they were healthy. And then for this one, because we knew that it was such a difficult lot to work around, and these trees, as you can see from these existing pictures of the home, the original here, there's some huge over 200-year-old trees even branching over the driveway. So we got a pre-construction walkthrough with the city and did a pre-review just for them to take a look at our initial design and make sure everything was going to work. And then we worked with them to integrate special permit requirements to get this done. So moving through this is what the original house footprint looked like, and what we had to work with. You can see the large heritage trees really all through the front here, and then there's a couple even in the back. The site had a pretty decent slope just from that sloped from the back corner, back left corner, all the way to the right. So originally there was a retaining wall, and we had to realize within the buildable footprint, we actually had some slope that we needed to manage when we thought about the design moving forward. So this next one's just showing, we're demoing out the retaining wall and demoing the existing residence. And what was left really here is just a quick layout of the half critical root zones and the quarter. The half is the lighter green and the quarter darker green. Those are the main areas we were dealing with. You can see the existing footprint in there. And then what was left over is there was quite a big swath of area that we could utilize in the back part of the house, or back part of the site, I should say, to allow us to work the house from the back looking forward. So it really left a smaller area. It's the backyard, and then a big area of the front yard that really looked into the trees on this particular one. And then it also had to fit into the deepest topography in the back of the site. So just as I wanted to quickly walk through some of the things that were required by the city to do on this particular site. I think most of you guys have all looked at and saw the standard tree protection plan. That had to be included, of course, in terms of fencing and mulching, dumpster locations, all that construction stuff. In addition, we had to get a pre-approved demolition plan that laid out our demolition path for removal, and that was a pretty tight, narrow swath that had to come off the driveway. They also made us include a grading plan with, just put some of this, a couple details on here of retaining wall details had to be shown that show that it was constructible towards the back of the lot when it got close to a half critical root zone. We had to do concrete form details and how they were staked out and formed for our cantilever slab locations. The diagram to the left-hand side, the magenta color, really shows that's where all our cantilevered slabs are located. And then the peach is where our impacts are for the trees that were currently on the site. We also had to show like the clearances of those cantilevered slabs and drainage. So this is just kind of an overall look of what was required by the city. And then I'll just go into this last city requirement. This is kind of what it looked like for us. We had to label out every single tree, what the existing impacts were, the removal of the existing impacts, and then we even had to go to the route of putting in the kind of temporary impact zone, like what your construction walkway was. If we had done masonry, we would have had to widen that to 3 feet to 4 feet. And then for siding, that could have been narrowed down. So they took into account every single part of the project, including the impacts that would not be a permanent building impact. The other thing to note, this tree that I'm showing here already had a ton of existing impacts, and we can really only take up 50% of the overall construction zone, or tree canopy zone. So that one was really challenging to work around, and we dealt with that a lot with some cantilevered slab solutions. We also had to do quite a bit of air spading. On this one on the right, you can see this magenta zone. Because it was outside of the existing footprint, we had to prove that there was already existing impacts there. So just moving to, you want to talk about air spading?
So just go back quickly to the previous slide, and we had to do each diagram for the city. So really showing each, existing impact, the removal of the existing impact. What we're trying to do is really trying to help preserve the health of the tree. So as architects, we always trying to our best to build what we need, and also try and find a way to really preserve the health of the tree, to removal some of those existing impacts, to give a little bit more breathing room to the root zone. So, so that was extensive work that we had to do as a separate view pages to submit to the city for approval. Right. So with this one, as you can see on the left-hand image, the historical image, we actually got this image from the existing homeowner back in 1950 or 40s when she took the picture of that tree. But now that tree in the current stage is much bigger than before. But we have to show this particular image because you can see the driveway that is already impacted already with the root zone. So with that, we're able to go back to the city and let them know that these trees are impacted over the driveway. So what we're trying to do is try not to add additional impact to the tree. So we're going to keep the existing driveway as it is and reuse that for staging, also for construction path. And doing so, we also have to prove that it's already impacted. So we had to, cut a channel along the driveway to show the root zone along that driveway to make sure that there's no new impact or it's already impacted, kind of prove that to the city. So there's extensive of research and going back to the archive and get those images for the city for approval.
And that's just another image by the house. In order for us to extend our footprint a little bit further, we had to prove that there was no viable root zone in front of the house. So anything over a certain root diameter, we would have not been able to extend our footprint. But finding no roots in this zone allowed us to consider an impact.
So with this initial diagram is just trying to show you guys what is the procedure of dealing with, the buildable area. As you can see, the first left-hand corner, those little sticks representing all the trees on the side, and the dashed line showing, the buildable area. And what we're trying to do with this particular house, this 5,500 square foot home, it's pretty large project. So we always trying to do is to descale the project itself. So what we did is we broke up the entire house in 3 separate volumes, and by connecting them through some sort of breezeway. And by doing so, we also, instead of having the house having the backyard facing the backyard, we're really trying to embrace the tree itself. So we really flip the floor plan facing the street. So your internal courtyard backyard is facing the street front. So you can really see the tree itself. The bottom left-hand corner is pretty much showing you how we deal with the existing the new foundation. And also thinking about the root zone placement, we decided to go with cantilever slab at the front edge of the building, to really kind of elevate the entire building itself off the ground to preserve the health of the tree. So that becomes the concept for the entire house, make it more of a pavilion-like structure. So there will be series of planes that's coming together as the architectural language. So we have cantilever slab on the ground, and then you have the roof plane kind of showcasing that layers of systems to kind of deal with the canopy of the trees, which we'll show you that later on in the video.
So just a quick site analysis. This is the new footprint here, and you can see from the new footprint that we went as far really as we could from the backyard location. We pushed it as far as we could to give us as much space as possible to spill to the front yard where a lot of the tree zone was. This is what Frank was just talking about. Our inner courtyard here all spills and looks out into the tree canopies and uses this kind of flipped over. The backyard becomes the front yard, but the trees also create a lot of privacy. So it really feels privatized there. So,
and as you can see from the articulation of the roof line and also the slope and the slab, all that curvature is not just for design sake. It's also the reason we did that is all responding to the canopy of the tree. So that organic of that corner condition is really responding to the site condition. And what we do when we start doing the massing design and placement of the house, the necessary step for us is to look at the sun study. And also the placement of the pool is very crucial because we definitely want, even though we have internal courtyard, we still want to have maximize the sunlight going through the inner courtyard. So during the summertime, we want to make sure the pool placement is in the right location. So we do definitely have to do some sun studies. So to your left and upper corner, it's a small little video that we did for our client to understanding how the sun are moving throughout the years and find out the best placement for the pool.
So
again, sorry. Again, this is a diagram showing the sun path and also the view corridor. And as you can see, we're really trying to understand where the placement of the apertures, the opening should be, and then take advantage of the view of the tree. And so we want the entire project to feel like you are living within the oak tree. Here's the video of the sun studies throughout the years.
Okay. And from there, we have some videos that we did so that you can get the real tour of the site. So let me change my share to the video. And hopefully everyone can hear the sound. So I'll start here.
All right, so we're here here at the Paramount, what we call a Live Oak residence. So the side of this building are pretty sit a little bit higher from the street. So as you can see, we're situated around roughly 9 heritage tree on this side. So there's quite a difficult challenge to design around that. So the idea is, as you can see, we really try to preserve the health of the tree. So the idea is to really design in a way that we can elevate the slab and to make this house into more of a pavilion-like structure. So by doing so, we established 3 horizontal plane to really tie the 3 separate volume, which is your casita, your master bedroom, and your rest of your house. The concept again is to really embrace the tree. And as you can see, the courtyard itself, typically you have a backyard facing the backyard, right? For this particular project, we wanted to highlight the tree itself, so we reversed the floor plan itself, so the backyard actually facing the street, it's become the front courtyard. You can see the voice space in the middle is your designated for your inner courtyard with pool and your spot area.
As you can see, the whole approach from this house is through the tree canopies, and so our front entry is right here. It's supposed to feel like a pavilion space as you walk in underneath the trees. Some aspects of the finishes that we're going to be using are natural wood siding, some white stucco on the bottom floor and upper floor, but really accentuate the boxes as individual boxes with their material and try to make them as earthy and natural as possible so they feel like they're really integrated into the site.
Okay, so as you can see, the arm right here, right next to the window, that's going to be our kitchen window view out. So the way we deal with this particular tree, the existing house actually a couple feet over to the tree. So what we did is we pulled the house back, the footprint of the house back further away to give a little bit of room to the heritage tree. At the same time, with this tree, we had to map it 3-dimensionally to map all the arms, so we know exactly where the roof line are going to be engaging to the arm of the tree. So we will make sure we don't touch that. So mapping the arm is also critical for this particular project to make sure that the height is set correctly due to maintain the health of the tree. As you can see, this corner, this becomes our main entrance to the house. Everything is surrounded with full height glass, so you can really showcase and highlight the tree as you're inside the house.
So as you see, walking in the entry, it feels like a big pavilion space with floor-to-ceiling windows. As we walk this way, we have the curved wall that's going around here to help kind of address the tree on this side. And we're standing in the living room right now. This is kind of an amazing space where you get to see everything that's going on. We have a huge kitchen window that really showcases the tree that comes up and over. So the sink sits in front of this space and it just makes it enjoyable to be in the kitchen. As you look this way, we're able to open up this entire wall to open out to the pool and outdoor living space. It also, as you come around this corner, you're able to get the view of the beautiful trees that are out in the front yard. So this space just kind of lives like an open floor plan. We're connected to the casita, the master wing. Everything feels like it's all connected within this inner courtyard feel. Beyond this is going to be a large see-through fireplace, so it gives it a sense of division in the space, but we can still see through it into the dining room, followed by the barbecue area, and just opening up across the entire space. We're trying to make sure as much as possible to capture as many of the tree views, but also maintain privacy of the side yards where we have it. So this inner courtyard also provides just a privacy in here without losing a whole lot in terms of what we see of the tree canopy around.
All right, as we approach leaving the living room, the main space, this here is a hallway passage that we want to lead the homeowner to their privacy. So this corridor really provides some sort of a moment where we can really bring additional natural light, not from above, but from below, where we can really see the dabbling of the pool reflections into the hallway. By doing so, again, this becomes a zone where, you know, we create a visual platform, like visual focus, to the second level. So this platform stairs become another main focus for the hallway itself. We have a floating stairs that with the stringers that's open on both sides, and also really provide that natural light into the hallway as much as we can. So as you turn to the left, we also have exercise room for the homeowner as well. And the back side, you can see beyond that, if we have additional backyard space that provide that for the homeowner to create vegetable garden for them. So this become a point where two volumes will start to connect. Is your main house, and beyond on the other side of the corridor is your master bedroom. But between the corridor, again, between the connections, you know, we give up another opportunity where we have a big picture window where you can really reflect it back to the pool, and also with the window opens, you can really again see the tree lines around this area as well. So another moment to create the link between the two volumes. Again, we have another access point from the corridor out to the pool deck. And then with this, we created two glazing opening where, you know, you can actually see the planters, like a sculpture garden that's between the exercise room and also the master suite. So this kind of cross link really provide more of a natural light into the space. So continue down the hallway. To your right will be your master shower. Further straight ahead is your master closet. So the master bedroom will be greeted with a continuous lattice roof, a ceiling plane that coming into the master bedroom. The idea is we'll have a custom headboard as a backdrop for the master bedroom. And also behind the windows, the idea is to really bring lots of natural light into the space. And the fence you see right now eventually will be replaced by solid fence with lots of planting to really hide the next door neighbors. But as you're standing here on the main master bedroom, you're actually a little bit higher elevation compared to the rest of the house. With that, you really have vantage point to the kitchen, the living room, and also up to the family room. So you have the view to the in front of you as a foreground, and beyond that, you have your kitchen, living room, and the dining room. So you're really still able to connect, even though your house are on the other side of the house, your bedroom's on the other side of the house, right? So with that, in sitting here, you also can see the upstairs level. So if your kids are upstairs in the family room, you still have some sort of visual connections back to that.
One thing I just wanted to mention too, right here we have a green wall that's going to be installed. We have an interior designer out of New York we're working with, Crystal Sinclair. She's been great to work with. She designed a green wall as a focal point here, and I think it's going to turn out really beautiful to also feel like that outside-in approach comes here. So going up the stairs here, this is basically going to feel like a concrete monolithic stair and opens up to the open stair treads. I think from here, there's a big window that looks out here. There's going to be planting along this back area, but the stairwell just feels like a bit split element that really connects you back to outside. There's a music room that's going to happen here. And from this room, there's just a wonderful view out through the courtyard where you can see how everything connects, how the planes all connect all the roof structures and just the canopy of the trees. The level 2 really expresses this kind of tree house effect that we were going for, and as we move to the family room, you'll be able to just see how much in the canopy we really are. So coming out of the music room here, there are 2 bedrooms, 2 ensuite bathrooms. We won't go back this way, but they're just out here on these 2 sides with 2 bathrooms here, and then a nice wide hallway to this family room. We have a nice large family room right here, and this is really a wonderful space to spend time with for the kids and just anyone up here, because as you'll see, when you look out through this, you can see the pool, you can see all the different volumes connected, and the tree canopy is really spectacular. This lot is quite a large lot for the Barton Hills Zilker neighborhoods here, so it's really spectacular that we get to enjoy this so close to the city. So walking out from this way, this is the outdoor deck. So the progression of this house really culminates on this deck, where you can kind of see everything interconnect. The roofing, the single plane, you can see how it ties in all the structures around. And when it's completed, these will really read like individual boxes coming through these very thin planes. We are addressing basically all the roof with natural stone material. We want to keep everything as natural as possible, so we really feel like we're tied into nature. And really, how can you not be tied into nature when you look around here, because we are really in the tree canopies here. It's really one of the best spots in the entire house to be. It's where you can really understand the design concept from our point of view, but also just really feel like you're in nature, so close to the city. That's not something you can get just everywhere, and it's something that we just really felt like with this lot, we had a huge opportunity and didn't want to lose it. And so, you know, this is where I would spend most of my time if I were living at this lot.
Also with what Megan just said earlier, you know, how we have to map out this arm of this tree to really make sure that the roof line doesn't encroach to the tree canopy. At the same time, we also did a drone study to capture what the view is going to be, or the downtown view, which is behind you. So those elevational studies is really a key point when we're doing design. So as you're standing here, you can really see all 9 Harris Street that really surrounded this entire project. This lot is roughly about 20,000 square feet, and we're trying to put the whole house about 5,000 square foot, 5,500 square foot home. So in order to maintain that scale of the project and also trying to descale the project at the same time is really challenging for us as well. No, when we design, we really think about the community and also the surrounding context of the neighborhood. So with this, we really break up the entire 5,500 square foot home into 3 separate volumes. And by doing so, again, is by using this connected roof, really unify that thing together. As you can see, the inner courtyard, you know, that's another key point when we start doing the design is how do we embrace this inner courtyard, and how do we fit this big pool in the inner courtyard to also capitalize the sun itself, especially we have 9 Harris Street around the site. So we had to do some sun study, really pinpoint, you know, throughout the year, different time of day, to do that sign analysis to make sure that the pool placement is the right location to maximize the daylight throughout the day. So that was the study that we usually do for most of our projects. As you can see on the master suite, you know, having that master suite spill out to the pool deck is another feature that we want to make sure that each room have access to the inner courtyard and also have the view out to see all those trees. So when FIA Home approached us to be the designer for this particular project, we were super thrilled. Once we saw the site, we saw the challenge that it comes with, And for Megan and I, we just feel like this is the moment where we can embrace the architecture, really showcase what we can do to take something that is difficult and turn that into beautiful, right? So I think the opportunity definitely was something that we don't take lightly. And so far, the house turned out amazing. And the way that AIA Home execute the construction side of it, and I think we're probably another 6 to 8 months out from completions. But I think this is something that we're just looking forward to see the final product.
I mean, I think the other exciting thing is when the client comes and takes a look, how excited they were, over the top. They saw it on the plans, but once they came in and experienced it with us and we got to experience it in reality, we all just felt like, oh, this feels right. So it's great to see when a client's happy like that. We're all just been so excited about how this has been turning out, and it's just going to get better from here. So I hope you guys get to see the finished product at some point. We'd love to share it with you, but super thrilled how this is going. Okay, so we have just one more shorter video with AIA Homes and Brent Fannin, who both developed and also is constructing this house. Let me go ahead and share that, and then he can also answer additional questions too about construction methods and things like that dealing with the house. Let me start that.
Hey, my name is Brent Fannin. I'm the owner of AIA Homes, and today I'm going to be showing around one of the projects that we have going over here in the Zilker-Barton Hills area on Paramount. This is a very interesting project that I'm partnering with Coexist Studio on. I am a residential home builder focusing on high-end construction, both spec and custom. This house is a spec house for me. Started as a spec house, and now we're building it as a semi-custom. Very unique opportunity. So what we have here is a half acre in Zilker on Paramount Avenue. So this street has some of the larger lots in this neighborhood. I was building a house around the corner, and this lot was on the market for almost a year. At the time, it was a high price point for the neighborhood, and the house has 9 heritage oaks on it, which made it a real challenge from a development side. So I know several people did look at the lot and passed on it because of the trees. My family has been in the tree business. My dad started a large nursery in the 70s. Currently, we're one of the largest nursery suppliers in the state. So my history with trees kind of gave me a different background on how I was gonna look at this lot. And so instead of looking at these trees as a negative, I started to look at them as a positive. We went into design and found out quickly it was going to be a little bit more of a challenge than we thought, but the lot itself, once we figured out the layout, really began to take shape. The site has 9 heritage oaks on it. The trees range from anywhere from 200 to 400 years old. Of the 9 trees, one of them is actually our neighbor's tree that we're also protecting. You can see here that we have wrapped all the trees in 2x4s to protect the trunks from any kind of strike damage that you may see. And then we also worked with fencing off the whole yard space here so we have no construction traffic coming through this space. So basically what we've done is created a full protected zone around these large trees to circumvent any kind of construction from happening in this area. We are utilizing the existing driveway from the original house as our construction access, and our neighbor has a really large oak tree right on the property line that hangs over this driveway. So one of the things that we did here was carry the tree protection onto the trunks of the trees that are hanging over the top of the driveway so that we could keep those from getting struck by any construction coming through during the day. We're required to protect these trees from the city arborist standpoint, but we're also protecting them because they're such a major asset to both this project and the neighborhood. These trees are several hundred years old, and they really have a place in the heart of the neighbors around them and a driving force in the architecture and design that we made on the lot. One of the construction methods that we used on this project was a cantilevered foundation. That detail can be found on the whole front perimeter of the structure. This cantilever allows us to hang over the half-critical root zone of these trees, partially encroaching into them and partially using existing impacts is how we were able to move the structure to this line on the property. Right now we have the cantilevers still framed up and protected, and we'll break those at the end of the project. A detail here where we have broken part of the cantilever in order to facilitate our waterproofing detail. But you can see how this is hanging back about 5 feet underneath the structure, allowing for us to build into the half-critical root zone of one of these big oaks right here. These are some foundation sections showing the cantilevered slab condition that we have on the front and side of this house. You can see we have a fairly substantial overhang here for all of these conditions, some of them up to 5 feet. The thing that we had to do here for this detail was keep clear of the undisturbed grade. That's one of the things the City of Austin wanted to make sure that we maintain inside of these half-critical root zones for these trees. The other thing that's interesting about the way we did this to make sure that we weren't disturbing this grade with stakes or form boards or anything like that is we used void form boxes to support all of this structure so that there is no impact into the soil here. And then once we break form, we'll be able to remove these and maintain that undisturbed grade that the City of Austin is looking for in these half-critical root zones. We're up on the second story of the house now, and one of the cool things about being up here is this feeling of living almost in a tree house. But in order to facilitate that, you can see how close the trees got to the structure. One of the things we did through design was really look at these arms and model and see how they were going to work with the structure themselves. You can see how we built a radius inside of the soffit here in order to facilitate this tree. Again, you can see how, as we get up here on the top, how our overhangs and things like that really began to integrate themselves into the structure. So when you're up in this space, you have this feeling of living in a tree. So that's a basic overview of some of the practices and methods we used on this project. Obviously taking a project on of this scale and scope inside of the trees has been a challenge, but again, we feel like it's a real value add to the house, not only for the homeowner in the long run, but also for the neighborhood and for the city to be able to responsibly work in and around these large trees and create something that's pretty special for the neighborhood and for the City of Austin.
Okay, so that's what the presentation. Brent, do you have anything you wanted to kind of add about the process or anything on the site?
I saw a couple of comments in the chat about the timing on permitting. One of the challenges that we had was we navigated this through this time last year at kind of the beginning and the height of the COVID crisis. And so that added an extra level of technicality to moving this thing through. We tried several different methods, expedited meetings. We just couldn't get a lot of traction on that. And as everybody knows, that was kind of the bigger challenge, is just getting us to a spot where we could start. Once we started, the design and working with Frank and Megan really came into play, and the methods that we use, I think, are doing a great job to help us develop around these trees.
Kind of going back through some of the comments and seeing things here too that were there trees removed or just not protected, or did you need special permission for those? So we just protected the trees that were 19 inches and greater, just by the city code. And we removed 2 trees. In the previous presentation, you could see in back 2 smaller trees towards the rear of the yard that were smaller than 19 inches. but since those were smaller than the threshold, those didn't require any additional mitigation or permitting towards that. So anything above 19 inches, we did maintain and did not need to remove or mitigate for. Also looking through, see if there's any other kind of questions I'm seeing here. So I think, and Brent kind of spoke a little bit to the timeline. I think there were definitely some lessons we've kind of learned and takeaways from doing a project like this with so much complication on the trees. We did the whole process with the tree review and everyone in the tree review. We worked very closely with our arborist. Even so, it was very difficult to get through the city, even doing all the diagrams and things. But so we definitely learned the expedited tree review may be a good path if you're looking to get trees through in a more consistent way.
Well, internally, I think in the office, we're always trying to figure out the new way to communicate with the city. So as we saw earlier, the extensive above and beyond tree diagram is something that we figured out that in-house that we have to do that in order to translate what we're trying to do on the project. So we have to carefully, methodically, really carefully diagram each diagram, make sure it's clearly presenting what we're trying to do and easier for them to understand without us being present, right? So for us, we really invest a lot of time getting those documents in line and go above and beyond, supply even more diagram to communicate with the city. So that was another layer of working with the city. I think that's come with the territory when you have 9 heritage trees on your side. So.
And then I just saw that a question about whether we had a third party to map the branches, and we did. We actually had the surveyor map the branches for us, the trees that we thought were going to be an issue. But I also know that arborists can also do this as well to map the low branches that you think are going to be a problem. But then also just from a trimming point of view, working with arborists to figure out which lower branches that can be trimmed back to help your project and get the clearance that you need when you're working up against the first or second floor. I'm also reading through this, so hold on one second.
So yeah, so once we get the survey from the survey to mapping out the tree, we just went into the system right away to build a 3D of that tree and build each arm and make sure they elevate it correctly before we're going to designing.
And I think there was a question about tree tolerances from the canopy and knowing how much tolerance we need for construction. We worked with Brent on that too, to talk through how much space he really needed for construction in addition to the clearance on the arm. So that's something that should be definitely a conversation with your contractor to see what is doable to make it work, so that just doesn't become a problem on site. So just being as precise as possible at the beginning and onset of the project and understanding those site conditions just helped so much that there weren't things that we had to be redone or rethought as they move forward on the project. So, I mean, overall, we're super excited about this project, and really at the end of the day, the trees themselves are so spectacular on the site that even though Frank had mentioned it, how challenging it was also extremely, I mean, we feel like we could work on any site with trees at this point because we had to jump through so many hoops to get things done, but really, you know, it only enhanced our understanding of what the city wants and needs, and also just goes to show you what you can really do on a site that seems challenging and maybe something's not going to fit. You can work around things and make things work.
And for the survey, one of the questions, who did the survey? I think it was Sanford Associates. They did the survey for us, topographic and trees, and also mapping 3-dimensionally, mapping the arms for us. So he did a great job. Yep. And then the structural engineer is Javier Martin. He's the one, JM Structure. They did the engineering for us.
One of the small items we didn't touch on the construction side, which is also kind of part of the design side on this project, is our exterior sheathing materials. As y'all probably know, the required impacts for masonry are pretty heavy and restrictive. So we're using wood on the structure, stucco, and then a really cool slate material that mimics. It's a real stone, but it's a very thin material. In place of a heftier masonry, and that helped us facilitate the footprint that we ended up with at the end of the day.
The point of contact for our arborist for this particular project, it was the two Jims, Jim Goebel and Jim, I can't remember his last name.
Something like that. I forgot. Two Jims. And then also we also had to go talk to the head
Naomi.
of Naomi. That's another person we had to work with. So we pretty much work with everybody in the department at the end.
Our original tree reviewer actually left the city after the pre-review. So that was interesting change, but we were able to work through it and get through it with a lot of help from Brent too. We all worked together to make that work.
Just as an aside, if you guys are having struggle with your reviewers, and I know everybody's having tree challenges, CCing Naomi and making sure she's part of y'all's correspondence can help facilitate some quicker responses. Just as a note, if you're struggling on some of your projects, and she's quick to respond and is also wanting to be a part of the conversation. But I've just kind of made it a habit. If we have something going on, that you email your reviewer and CC Naomi on it, so she's in the middle of it.
And I will say too, working with the arborist to come up with a strategy, because sometimes, like in this particular project, we didn't have to remove anything over 19 inches. We could fit within the footprint, even though it was challenging to work within that footprint. But with mitigation and things like that, working with a plan and strategy with the arborist in advance on how best to present that to the city, so that you know what you can do before you even go in there and you have the right tools. Looking on here, they're all live oak trees pretty much throughout the whole site. It's pretty much almost like a whole grove of live oaks in this yard and to the adjacent yards as well. Was another comment on here, question. So that's a good question for you, Brent. Did they lose their leaves during the ice storm?
Yeah, that's a typical condition on live oaks. I think we were fortunate in the timing because these trees are deciduous in the spring, putting on their new growth in the spring. And so basically what happened is that they lost their leaves maybe 2 or 3 weeks earlier than they would have anyway. The only trees that we saw had challenges were trees that weren't rooted in yet, or if you had some trees in containers. But for the most part, the storm did not affect existing live oaks.
I think that kind of covers the questions, unless there's additional questions. One other thing I think I touched on in the previous presentation is towards the rear of the lot, because of the topography, we did have to cut into the ground so that the main master wing is slightly sunken in there. And since we were close to a critical root zone, that was something the city did look closely at. They wanted to see you have a buffer for the removal and excavation where there's a retaining wall there. And so just to make sure, like if you're going up right up against the 50% critical root zone, you do have to pull back enough to make sure that there's room to construct the forming and foundation wall there. They'll consider that an impact.
And that was one of the challenges that we ran into, was a back and forth on what we felt like was a usable space for the construction and what the city felt like was required for the construction. So, there was a lot of back and forth and communication about, we feel like we can do this inside of the space. And at the end of the day, they did agree with us and allowed us to use our setback that Frank and Megan drew.
And I will say too, they do have some details they like to see, but they're just not accessible from the website. So sometimes you just have to ask them to give it to you, like a forming foundation that they want to see. They ended up sending us what the forming foundation that how to form the cantilevers. They have something in particular they want, and although it's not noted, and I had to specifically ask what they wanted, and they have that in the office. So I would just suggest, if you're running into a wall with that a little bit, just to say, what drawing or what do you have that you're wanting to see? Because we were happy to work around, to make things work, but sometimes just getting the information from the arborist of what exactly they want to see, you have to be pretty specific about it. Seeing another question here, the realtor is actually, Brent is the broker on the project, and
Oh, it's a Sunsteady question.
Yeah.
Sunsteady, yeah. Usually we use
realtor
3D
here.
software. We use for too long. We just use SketchUp. We did the mapping, and just knowing where the north arrow is, we can do quickly understand the sun path for that. And then as far as the setback goes, the front yard I think was still 25, and the side yard was a little bit deeper. I think the side yard was 10, and the backyard is 10 also.
I think was the question, how far was the setback from the critical on that retaining wall?
We did about a foot on the retaining wall.
I think we had to, that was a pretty tight tolerance to get there for that, but we were definitely trying to get every square foot that we could into the house for the client's requirements. That might.
Okay. Does that conclude?
Yeah, you guys, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I don't see any more questions coming back, but really appreciate y'all showing us this house. It's beautiful and very informative. Trying to work through all that coordination with the city. Everyone has a new struggle, I feel like, every project, but this one had a lot of its own. Yeah, so thank you guys. And I just want to do a shout out for next month. We're still looking for May. So if you have a project and you'd like to show it off, we'd love to see it. Yeah, get at us if you have any questions, and we're happy to help with the presentation. Thank you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thanks.